Here's another game from round 3 of the Fide World Cup. This is round 3, game 2, with the white pieces, GM Matlakov, and with the black pieces, GM Levon Aronian. Now, going into the second game, GM Matlakov needed a win in order to keep his chances alive, and GM Aronian just needed a draw to advance to the next round. Let's see what happened. So again, Matlakov white pieces, Aronian black pieces. The game started off d4, knight of 6, c4, e6, very flexible opening by black. This can turn into many things: Benoni, Nimzo Indian, Queen's Gambit decline, what have you. For example, Nimzo Indian after bishop b4. But Aronian opts for d5, one of his favorite openings here, specialty, Queen's Gambit decline, and c takes d5. Now, I noticed in the past, Aronian has played if d4, d5, c4, this move order, e6, knight c3. Aronian has been a specialist in this line, which avoids the exchange variation proper, because the bishop's not able to come here. So for instance, after c takes d5, e takes d5, then the bishop must settle for f4, and then the knight comes out. And that line, bishop e7, of course avoids this, which is your classical Queen's Gambit exchange variation. Of course, you're not lost, but certain players don't like to go into this as black. So it's interesting seeing Aronian's choice here. So after e6, so now he's in the kind of different move order, whereby his knight is already here on f6. So d5, and now white has the option to go into this exchange variation and play bishop to g5, since the knight has committed itself in this Nimzo Indian move order. So Matlakov plays c takes d5, and Aronian makes an interesting decision and captures with the knight, which is acceptable. Of course, after here, you're right back at the exchange variation. This move is leads to positions similar to actually can transpose directly into the semi-terrace defense, but the positions are also similar to the exchange variation in the Grunfeld, except that black has not fianchettoed his bishop. But the play is similar with this counterplay c5, and you get these this 2-to-1 majority on the queen side here. I'm kind of skeptical on this move because, again, in the semi-terrace, get rid of some graphics there. In the semi-terrace, this knight is already committed to f3, and so it's easier for a little bit easier for black to attack in the center, whereas doing it here, the knight hasn't committed itself yet to f3, and this f pawn can be used to bolster the center. Maybe f3, e4, and sometimes even be used in an attack. e4, knight takes c3, b takes c3. So now you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the imbalance in the opening. White is given the center, and black's job is to prove that it is a liability and to try to tear it down. Or else, if this is allowed to linger on late in the game, then white will just have a nice space advantage. So the vigorous attack will begin now against the center. There it is, c5 in the Grunfeld style, semi-terrace style. Rook b1, putting the pressure already on the queen side, right on open file, and it's just making black's life difficult as far as trying to develop. Bishop e7, and I have a feeling too Aronian might have ran into some preparation. here. So bishop e7 is played. Knight f3. So again, a knight f3 is a very natural move, but just know that white does have the option of moving that pawn. But knight f3, castles, bishop c4, queen c7. Now we see this x-ray pressure down the c file, especially on the c4 and c3 squares. Queen e2, reinforcing the bishop. And another thing that queen c7 does is just protect this pawn, and black can pursue ideas of a6 and b5. There's a6, a4, stopping this idea. And now you can see the benefit of having this rook here, because now this pawn is backward and must be guarded by pieces. C takes d4, c takes d4, bishop d7, attacking this pawn here. Now is a critical moment in the game, and this is why I feel that Aronian might have ran into some preparation here. Black is cramped, but if he can, just win this pawn cleanly, then he has two passed pawns that are free to march down the queen side and promote. Yes, this center is annoying, and black must be forever vigilant of it, but two passed pawns might just be a equal balance for giving white the center, if not a winning balance. Not a winning counterbalance. But this cramp, this space advantage white has, is just hindering black's full development, and so it's very dangerous. So even though he would have those passed pawns on the queen side, he has to be vigilant and on the lookout for mating attacks from white. All right, like I like this position for white, and I would never play like this for black. Allow this kind of set situation in the center. It's just not my style. Some players can play like this, and it takes a lot of patience, but I don't like giving my opponent the center like that. So after bishop d7, white is faced with the question of what to do about this pawn here. I mean, after all, you don't want to have to play a move like bishop b3 or something. Then b5 comes crashing through with advantage. This liberates black's game. So Matlakov played castles. Just said, okay, take the pawn. Because white is playing for an attack against the king. So he's not really concerned about this pawn on the side of the board here. Aronian doubles up against the bishop here. And bishop d3. Which to me is not a big deal, because that's kind of like where the bishop wants to be anyway. To attack over here on the king side. Push e5. And blast open the doors over there and get that king. Another red flag in the position is, look at all the pieces over here on the queen side. Where's the defense of the black king? How is he going to be defended against the coming onslaught? There's only this bishop on e7. Okay, so let this be a lesson. Always watch out for this kind of stuff. Alright, get that image in your head. Look at all the pieces on the queen side. White has a full center. Yes, he's down material, but he has the dual pawn center and excellent attacking chances with the bishop here. So d5. So now the attack begins. Okay, because now it's time to roll this center up, and he starts attacking the squares around the king, because you have to weaken this position somewhat, right? You want to provoke some kind of advance or something to start probing this position. You would love, say take here, and have a situation like that. So this is what white starts doing with his advance. He's gonna clear these pawns out so that the lines will be open to the king. Knight d7 from Aronian. If d takes, f takes, and let's say queen a2, then black can defend with knight c5. Say bishop c4 and bishop d7. And I still think white has good chances here. This pawn is extremely weak. This bishop will go to e3. But I think the game is balanced because, again, this material advantage, these passed pawns on the queen side is very dangerous. So white sooner or later would have to turn this into something concrete. White would have to turn his attack into something concrete before these pawns get rolling. So it's a very, very interesting continuation there. So I can see why white didn't capture immediately. Instead, he just kept going. e5. Right, so he's jettisoning another pawn. Aronian snaps up the pawn. He takes d5. He says, "What the heck?" Right, now he has three unopposed pawns. Right, so Aronian's like, "Man, I just have to make it to the end game, and I'm good." e6, thematic blow. Of course, you can't let this knight reposition itself here and end up on this square, or go here and there, just blockading. Then the game is probably over for white. So e6, again, busting open the king side. There's the knight. Of course, the knight would love to reposition itself there. See, and now the king is drawing out. So you see, he provokes weakness, gets the king drawn out. Again, look at the defenders, right? Is it enough? Knight e4. Excuse me, knight d4. So things start getting open up. The knight, of course, is coming here. You got all kind of threats. Aronian tries to counterattack. Now, why not just try to tuck the king back in with king g8? Perhaps he was worried about knight f6, bishop f6, queen g4, but it's hard to see where there's something decisive. Black still has defensive resources here. Say, for instance, after bishop d7, bishop f4 hitting the queen. Queen got to move, c6. And then white at least has perpetual here. But again, that would win Aronian the match, because Aronian just needs a draw here. So after knight h6 check, then it would just king h8. So that's an interesting point in the game. Like, just move back here. But I think Aronian saw this pawn, protected by this knight, and figured, okay, I don't have to worry about that. And he figured, well, let me attack this piece that's unprotected. Right? So, doing a lot of things here. He's attacking this guy. Perhaps preparing to play a move like that, or even like that, try to trade off the queens, and then he figured at his own leisure he could just, put the king back there. However, to his chagrin, Matlakov was able to play this move anyway. Bishop takes h7. And now, just so you know, at this time, Matlakov only had approximately 29 minutes on his clock. Aronian had 1 hour and 15 minutes, so Aronian is moving quickly. However, he must have misevaluated this move. So after bishop takes f7, he plays queen e5, and this is what he probably was banking on at this point. Just having all of this on pre's, right? And he figures, okay, I'll give back some of the material, but I still had this passed pawn here, and what's the big deal? Just to show you, if knight takes h7 here, then this e6 square becomes available. Remember, the knight here was protecting this square. So queen e6, king f8, and there's just too many diagonals open and files and stuff. So after bishop e7, a nice move, queen d5, with the idea of putting the knight in there and check. And so black is in a whole world of trouble there, so that's why he couldn't take that. So after a 20-minute think, Aronian went for this move, which of course the queen was here protecting that. And finally, this early investment in the move rook b1 pays off with rook takes b7 check. Notice these squares now are inaccessible to the king. So he should have took that chance when he had to, but now he must come out. And he enters into this pin. Bishop d7 now, which is never good. Those are signs of a bad position when you have to pin yourself, and then you just basically start looking for tactics to increase the pressure. Now, one thing we could say is white does not want to trade queens here, so he finds a good move, increases the pressure by playing queen g4, increasing the pressure there. And Aronian takes the piece, so queen takes d4, rook d7, knight d7, queen d7. Again, where's the king going? So now that piece is forced into some type of pin. And here, Matlakov plays rook e1, which is just winning. And the idea, of course, is if a move like rook e5, this cuts off the king's escape, and then he just gets mated after queen e6, king f8, and then queen mates the king. Therefore, Aronian plays the move queen e5, which is basically tantamount to resignation. But of course, the idea is based on a back rank weakness. So if rook takes e5, then just rook takes c1, and that will be mate in one move. So after queen e5, simply bishop d2, dealing with the threat on the c1 square and keeping the threat here. Rook d8, and Matlakov plays queen g4. Now even here he had a strong move, and bishop g6 But again, that's entering into fanciful complications, because after this, then he can just snatch up the queen, because the rook is no longer a threat to come to the back rank. So that's winning. Plays queen g4 here. And this is good enough because Aronian has seen enough. And he resigned here. I just wanted to show you real quick. There was another move here. Not rook e1, but also, well, rook e1 is winning in the most simple looking move. I think another move here is interesting too, is bishop b2. Of course, with the idea of queen takes b2 and then queen d5 check. And after king e8, bishop g6, and then mate is forced here. But of course, black, as in most of these fantasy variations, black does not have to oblige, and so rook e1 is better as far as practical chances. It's real straightforward, and it's obvious that this rook cannot go and defend, so the queen must interpose itself. So nice clean win in short win, a miniature, as a matter of fact, for Matlakov in a must-win situation. So now these players will go to tie breaks, but that was really a crush, and again just shows the benefits of the classical center. And I've always liked this style of play. All my openings are classically based. Like I don't play like pick defense and those type of things. I tried Alacon's defense for a while. It's okay. They use that as a secondary defense, backup defense. But I like putting, the old school 2 pawns in the center, and we'll fight it out. Because I believe that if I just get my pieces out and just develop according to sound principles, that you're gonna have to beat me in the chess game. Like I'm not losing in 30 moves, even against the IM or Grandmaster. I don't. And I need to start showing my games, but I don't lose, in 30, like this 27 moves stuff. It's been a while since lost like that. If I lose, to a strong player, it's gonna, he has to grind me out, because my style is a classically based style where it's kind of like real solid. So if you play solid, it's kind of hard for opponent to kind of just overwhelm you. And this type of position is just real provocative here, especially the Aronian just needing to draw to go and allow and play this like real double-edged type game like this, and allow the opponent opportunity to sacrifice pawns and stuff, and just all of this stuff not being developed is just beyond me. I think he should have just, tried, I tried harder to make the draw. If Queen's Gambit decline was definitely a good choice, but after d5, c takes d5, just take with the pawn. This is not like a death sentence for black here. I think this position is way better than going into this and then allowing white to play with this, the 2 bishops. There's all kind of open lines, open diagonals, and so anyway, look forward to the tie breaks. So we'll see if Aronian can recover from this, or if Matlakov pulls off another upset like Bu Zhangzi did in eliminating Magnus Carlsen. So please like, subscribe, all of that, and I'll see you guys on the next video.